What's up, Mr. Weston?
You showed up like right on time.
Right on time.
Yeah, it is. I am starting to call the fire committee to order. We have, actually, there's nothing to report. I came back from the fire department. In fact, I didn't visit the fire department this past month. There's nothing to report. I had nothing to report last month.
Okay, call the police committee to make a motion. We approve the minutes of our July 7th committee meeting. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? The motion carried. As of this morning, we have received 2 bids on police cars, both on a Ford Taurus. The bids were within $100 of each other. Bob's still waiting for the 3rd bid.
I got a 3rd bid came in today.
Oh, okay.
But it was on a Chevy, Chevy's counterpart, but it was even higher.
Well, if we have 3 bids, we take the lowest of the 3 bids.
And it's within the budgetary amount. I believe the budgetary amount was $25,500.
Well,
And we're at $24,800.
now we have the, well, since it's not a state bid, we have to equip it as a police car, the light bar and the whatever. That's going to be an added expense to the bid. That's just the car.
Right. That's something A&W would do.
Do we know what that costs?
I'll get a figure for you.
You transfer the old equipment off of the new car?
The overhead lights, basically, and the siren box and that stuff gets transferred.
Or with the radio and all that?
In the radio, and usually that's anywhere from $500 to $1,000.
For labor and you change them?
Yes.
So I would make a motion that we take the full council accepting the low bid for a new police car with the added expense of putting in the light bar and the radio, whatever police equipment needs to be in that vehicle.
What was the figure?
It was 24.
It's $24,855 if I recall correctly.
Was that a Ford or a
Ford Taurus.
Ford Taurus.
I had 2 bids on a Taurus and 1 bid on a Chevy Impala.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, all those in favor? Okay, motion carried. Tomorrow is National Night Out here in Louisiana. April and the police department are having some activities here outside here at City Hall. They're going to have some activities for the young people, and those activities were provided by the high school or by the school system. They will also have hot dogs and chips and drinks, and we received some very generous donations from Pepsi-Cola, Carl's Market, Abel's, and Mr. Kent Adams toward these items. All of the young people that attend will be given a goodie bag with some items in it. I don't know what all will be in them. And then also we have 5 other families or people around town that are hosting block parties. And I would encourage everyone to attend, if at all possible, at least one of these block parties. They're very worthwhile.
You have a list of who all's going to have the
Well,
block party?
Randy and Treadway and his wife, Sheila Sapp, Marilyn Johnson, Jim Woods, and Ann Murray, all hosting block parties. And Mr. Corey Anderson, who has been a police officer here and who is now part-time here. He has all the training and equipment and ready to go. He's working part-time, and it's being looked at for him to possibly become full-time and possibly in the investigator position that April
That's all it is.
left. The
Sorry.
active shooter program at the school is this August the 13th. Sheriff Cordy is also involved in this and going to help out with that. And then we just talked about a car, but the broken record that we play almost monthly, car number 1, which is the black car, one of the newest ones. It's in Troy right now for repairs. The Dodge Charger broke down in the middle of the night and stranded the officer, and it had to be towed in. But it's working now. Also, car 1 has a radio problem, and A&W Communications is working on that. Did they get that straightened out, or it's still?
They will be getting that, yes.
Yeah, okay. And also the car that April will be using, the chief's car, or whatever, is in the shop here for repairs.
We had a pinhole in the radiator.
Are they putting the new radiator in, or they can fix that?
No, they're gonna go ahead and put a new radiator.
Okay, so hopefully it will be back in service soon. And that's all I have. Does anyone else have anything for police? Did you have something?
Yes, I do, but go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think we need to still, Bob's, it's well known that he's making the recommendation, but I think he formally needs to make the recommendation for the deputy police chief. And we should probably do that to this committee, and then you guys can forward it to the full committee. So,
Yeah, I would make that recommendation that we go with April Everson as deputy chief, along with moving Corey Anderson into active duty also.
A second. If we, no,
We have
I
to
make
make a
a motion
motion
that
to
we-
take that to full council.
yes.
so
Is
you're
that-
I make a motion that we take it to
Okay,
vote.
I'll second it. All those in favor?
Question.
Question?
We need to make amends on the structure of the police department before we can do that, because there's no available place for a deputy in the way it's structured now, so we have to make an amend.
No, the ordinance calls for an assistant chief.
Huh?
Our ordinances call for an assistant chief.
I know, but that ordinance was not removed when the new structure for the police department went into effect.
Yeah.
Because the structure says we have 2 sergeants, we don't have an assistant. We don't have, if you're calling a deputy assistant chief, there's no designation for that.
I think
The way the police is structured now.
I think our current ordinance is written such that we have a police chief and an assistant
Yeah.
police chief, and that's
It
required.
was never changed
Now,
after the restructuring.
this may all be moved. It's one of my notes from the ordinance committee to request that that change be made to accommodate what we're asking to be done. So maybe the motion could be amended pursuant to those changes being made. But I was gonna hand that to the ordinance committee. We could alternately hand that, looking at those ordinances and getting them in line to the police committee they can do it as well as the ordinance committee. If you'd like to do it in the police committee, you could take a look at all that language, make sure it's matching what we're actually doing today, meet with Bob, make sure it's accurate, and then bring to full council a proposal.
But my point is, it's conflicting now, so now would be the time to straighten it out. Because
Right.
it doesn't agree with the way the structure is. So whatever we want the structure to be, we need to change that to match what we're going to do.
Right, so something's gonna have to be written down
Right.
to amend it. So do you want to do that as a police committee, or do you want to hand that to the ordinance committee to do?
I have alerted Mr. Rapp about my proposal to change that
sergeant chief. But when the restructure went into effect, that wasn't removed. There's a lot of stuff in there that hasn't
That's what
gone
I'm
in.
saying, now we're going back to that,
Yeah.
so there's,
So we just need to change the structure in the police or,
Well, maybe not so much. I'm looking at, I didn't bring the book, but I'm gonna try to, do it this way. 200.060 says the police department shall consist of the chief of police and assistant chief of police and such other officers as are appointed.
so that's what we're doing.
Yeah, so we're legal with that,
Yeah.
correct?
Yes.
So if you want to amend those to be executive police chief and deputy police chief by, semantics, by the nomenclature, I think that would be a reasonable amendment to have. But I think that we are complying with that.
I think we're complying with the ordinance, but you have a copy of the structure and I have a copy. And it calls for 2 sergeants. So the structure for the police department is not matching the ordinance.
No, it says any officers that, what did you say, Rob?
Any such officer.
Yeah, any such officers.
I think you're missing my point.
I
I don't know how to explain it any better, but we have you remember last week, I think it was, when we discussed the development out at the park, the
The industrial park.
industrial park. And we found that we have written something to go by, guidelines for selling. Well, we have a guidelines for the police department for the police structure, correct?
Those were Chief Hughes' guidelines. Those were never officially signed off on by the council.
Yeah, they were voted on because I voted on them. And I talked to the former mayor, and the mayor said that they were, and the minutes should verify
I
that.
don't remember us voting on those.
can ask Sharon to search for an
Now,
ordinance,
I
or
was wrong once before, so,
was it that you were wrong?
well, I later found out that I was right, but I thought for me I was wrong. But that's my point, I'm just saying
What
that
would you suggest we do, Don?
everything just needs to be equal.
How would you suggest we get there?
Well, we need to look at the structure of the police department, and if we want to leave the ordinance the way it is with the police chief, change the structure. And if I'm wrong, and it never was passed, and it doesn't exist. But Chief Hughes restructured it, he came to the council, and the council voted on it, and it should be in minutes.
In his structure, there was a chief of police and 2 sergeants and
Which did not follow the ordinance.
patrolman officers.
Right. You changed that, but the ordinance was never changed to
Right.
match it.
Yeah.
So if you want to go, you don't have to change the ordinance is already there, you just need to change the police structure, if that's the way it is. Now, if I'm wrong, then it's not that way. If it was never passed and it's not in the minutes, then cancel it.
Well, Chief Hughes gave me some big, thick book to go over the, procedures and protocols and this, that, and the other thing, and I did that, but I didn't think that ever got passed by council. That was just like by order of the chief of police during his command.
Okay.
That's how he was doing it.
I should have brought that piece that I had with me, because I've got a page at home that's about 4 or 5 pages. If I brought that, I could have shared it with you, and somebody maybe has been able to identify what that is.
I think the essence of the thing is, we know what we want to do.
Right.
We're agreed in that, as a body, the council. And so I think this is one of those steps where we need to make an appointment, put April in that position. And if we need to clean up the ordinance to reflect that intention, then it's the legislature's job to do it. So if you see a place where we have an ordinance that does not match what we're doing, then please, Don, write it down, bring an amendment to that's what.
I'm satisfied if you want to proceed with what you planned, and we'll check that out and change it later if that's what needs to be done. So we
And
can go
please
So
ahead.
did
bring
you
that
make
up
a
so we
motion,
can.
Sandy?
Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
it's been a
Josh
motion.
made the motion and I seconded it.
Seconded it.
We're in
So we-
discussion.
Yeah, I know.
I think we've discussed it enough. We can move on.
Okay. All those those in favor? Okay, motion carried. Anyone else have anything else for police?
Yes, in my walking of my ward, which Kentucky Street runs through, a good percentage of it, there were some complaints about the 15-mile-an-hour speed limit there. Nobody follows it. In fact, people with lawnmowers run much faster than 15 an hour. And if you were to go from one end of Kentucky Street to the other, you can expect another hour in your tour of Louisiana. So I would suggest that we bring it to full council to take a look at raising the speed limit to at least 20 or 25.
That's something that is sort of at the prerogative of the chief of police. So maybe we should first take it to the chief of police, and she brings back to us that, well, you know, or he, whichever the case might be, but they make a recommendation that maybe the council increase the speed limit to whatever number.
Do you wanna look at that and bring some information back to?
April was back there shaking her head, so I think that she probably has some opinions on this.
It's a school zone.
Yes, but only a small section of his school zone.
But if we change the speed limit to 20, which I'm obviously not the chief or the assistant chief, but if we change that whole road to 20, then that brings the school zone up to 20. And people already drive too fast through there.
Well, they drive much faster than that right now.
So either,
I actually think an idea that's an issue, because I know that if that's been brought up before to the council about wanting to raise the speed limit through there, that we probably need to do some kind of,
Speed trap.
Yeah, like a work study, or not work study, but like a traffic, area through there to see what people, an average speed that people are traveling through there, how many vehicles are driving, you know, try to keep, some numbers on it for a certain amount of time. But I think with the speed limit being 15, I personally think that it's appropriate with it being in the school zone, because people do go 40 miles an hour, so if we raise it, that's gonna give them even more opportunity to drive higher speed through there. We can-
And something to keep in mind, there's not sidewalks for kids to walk on around that area. So when they're walking, and unfortunately, a lot of times we're catching them walking in the street.
Okay, I'm just bringing it to council because it's been brought to me. I can live with the 15 miles an hour because I don't usually go that way.
You leave a look at it.
Okay. Anyone else have anything for police? Bob, you have anything else? We're adjourned.
next on our list is streets and alleys.
Okay, call the Streets and Alleys Committee meeting to order. Make a motion, we accept the minutes of the last meeting as reported.
Second.
All in favor? The only thing that I have to report is we received, Chuck and I received a memo from the mayor, and he wanted us to, I guess, look at a situation, give us a report coming down Star Hill on Kentucky, where that hard turn is, and we've discussed it, and we're gonna go look at it next week. We're gonna have opportunity to get together and maybe consult Mr. Jenny and just see what our options are. The best and most practical probably would be take the 2 parking spaces for the residents, but that's very inconvenient for, you know, their taxpayers, just like everybody else. I wouldn't want somebody taking my parking space from my house, but that's the most practical, so we're gonna try to come up with a solution that everybody can live with. And I'll give a report on that next meeting, I guess.
Wonderful, thank you for taking that.
And for those of you that have been in suspense all week, wondering what I was trying to convey to you last week, that no longer exists at this point. If it happens again, I'll bring Mr. Jenny a work report and see if we can get that resolved. otherwise, I'm not even gonna mention it because it's,
So we're still in suspense.
yeah. Just kidding. But at this point, it doesn't exist, so I was hoping it would go away and I wouldn't have to bring it out in the open, so maybe it hasn't. That's all I have. Is anybody else?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, Mayor, I found the email, so I'll read this to you. This is from Chris Ketters from the Visitors Bureau. I received a phone call this afternoon from an out-of-town visitor that I wanted to pass along. Her and her granddaughter were walking down Georgia, coming back from Dairy Queen, when her granddaughter tripped on the sidewalk in front of John Moran's place, scraping her knees pretty bad. She tripped on a protruding piece of sidewalk. Needless to say that the grandmother was upset. This brings to issues to mind. The first being the obvious, that there should be some sort of caution paint along the hazardous sections of sidewalks on Georgia Street. Secondly, and more importantly, this puts a huge black eye on the city. I say this because she put direct blame on the city for this sidewalk issue. Even though sidewalks are the responsibility of the owner of the building adjacent, visitors to our city believe that these sidewalks are owned and maintained by the city. Issues like this will most certainly happen again if steps are not taken soon. My biggest fear is that someone injures themselves because of a sidewalk on Colorfest weekend. If that happens and an insurance claim is filed, it would most likely be the last Colorfest we would be able to have. And we all know how much revenue, taxes and otherwise, that weekend brings into the city. Thanks for your attention to this situation. So I want to bring that before the street commission, and as far as sidewalks, and maybe have open dialogue as far as concerns that was arised from this letter.
Sidewalks do belong to the property owner responsible for sidewalks?
Yes.
The building inspector, that's what you said?
Yeah, the reality
Is
of
that
it, what's
investigate
perception?
that way?
Yes, sir.
Well, it is a perception.
Yeah.
The property owner is responsible for the sidewalks, and it is a very bad problem in our city. You walk down the sidewalks of Georgia Street, which is truly our main street of town, and I walk with a pretty big step, and I'll still trip occasionally on some trips. In addition to that, the problem continues through the seasons. There is a tremendous amount of property owners that don't shovel the snow from their sidewalks, and we have people, mailman walking, trudging through snow, which that needs to be addressed too, because I'm sure that's their responsibility to remove that snow.
I don't know
The
that it is.
big issue, I mean, Bob, you might be able to enlighten us on this as far as getting past litigation dealing with sidewalk issues and claims against city. The reason I wanted to think that our insurance did pay out on the claim.
We did have one up off of Frankfurt Road, yes.
The biggest concern about this, even though the sidewalks belong to the property owner and it's their responsibility, it's the city's responsibility to enforce. And if the property owner is unwilling to maintain their property, the sidewalk, the city has to have some means, meaning money, to initiate the repair of the sidewalks and put a tax lien on the property. But we just don't have the revenues to do that. So as far as the solution, at least are we issuing letters to the property owners of sidewalks that are in terrible shape. That is one thing that we can do.
Have we done that?
If it comes to rise, a complaint or a problem, then we're not going out and checking sidewalks, no. If like I said, if it comes full council or whatever, then we write down the address, we go check that specific
One of the
instance.
problems that with the sidewalks and with the citizens doing it, if you have a neighbor that has a terribly bad sidewalk, or if you happen to have a terribly bad sidewalk, but his is worse than yours or hers, and then you do one of those orders and give it to Mr. Jenny, it's got your name on it. So then your neighbor's mad at you, and then he comes back, I'm gonna fix your sidewalk, which I guess they all should be fixed, but you lose a neighbor. So, if
Is
they're.
it typical for cities
I
that,
don't know that it has to be that way,
that
Don.
citizens are responsible and business owners are responsible for their sidewalks? It is.
I don't know that it has to be that way, Don. I think that it can be anonymous. I mean, the building inspector is capable of making that call. I think we haven't addressed that, that issue forward. We could start looking at that, and if the council feels that that's someplace we should be putting more attention, we need to accommodate.
If the citizen has a neighbor that has a bad sidewalk, can they notify
The building inspector.
proper authorities without disclosing their name? Because
They don't have to, they don't
And
have
they-
to put, they don't have to be told who complained, they just have to,
Yeah.
you know, just say there's
So
been
you
a
can
complaint.
you can rat on somebody and still be innocent, not. I mean,
Well, it depends on whether, you know, you're man enough to say, yeah, I complained, or you just want to be anonymous, or a woman enough,
Or you could just be a concerned
or
citizen.
you can just be a concerned citizen.
We've got a lot of those.
Well, I think there needs to be, there needs to be some kind of, I don't know, Ken, if there is some kind of criteria when you inspect a sidewalk. You can have a sidewalk that's cracked, but not a tripping hazard.
That's it.
You know, so,
Usually something like that, whatever the width of a crack is, 1/2 of its width, if it's elevated, that's usually kind of like a trip hazard. I don't know if I explained that well. but
It's lifted.
It's lifted, basically. And, I don't know if there's can be a set guideline, but, I mean, definitely we can pick out certain parts of town that people use the sidewalks as a public means of, walking, and, I don't see another litigation, how much that litigation cost our insurance.
That was a different scenario, so.
Yeah, because I can give you an example, and it's probably been about 10 years ago, next door to me, their sidewalk was horrible. And an elderly lady walking along it, she tripped on a crack and went right flat on her face on her sidewalk while we were sitting on our porch. And we helped her out, but the next door neighbors, they went back to them. They knew who to go to. They went back to the people there and filed a claim against their homeowner's insurance. And then, lo and behold, 2 weeks later, their sidewalk was replaced. And, so in a case like that, their insurance probably told them to do that or else.
I don't know, would it be an appropriate thing to just simply ask that specific spots that folks are concerned about, just report that to the building inspector? And we'll start putting some more attention, administration will start putting some more attention on.
I think it would be very nice if we had an ordinance or some sort of way to address the sidewalks. Because I've been told a couple of times now by people that they used to love taking walks down Georgia Street, down to the riverfront. And now they just don't do it anymore.
Well,
Because, it's part of our public spaces, even though it's maintained by property owners, the public has the right of way on those sidewalks.
It's a funding issue, right?
Sure, I mean, it's a funding issue, but also if these people are held accountable, so that when they purchase a property, that they know, not only are they purchasing that property, but they're also assuming the responsibility of that sidewalk. And, I just feel like if we're ever gonna clean our city up and make it a place where people want to come and live, we gotta start holding people accountable.
Don, two things. I love to see Louisiana's top 10 list of our most severe sidewalks, at least some sort of a aim point. Another one is not to miss out on a CDBG grant when it becomes open again. I know Clarksville just got roughly $85,000 to redo a lot of their sidewalks along 79 there.
That's because they're city-owned.
So if there's something that we can do, I know, part of our CDBG grant from, in front of the Eagles Nest, on down through here, when they did that project. But just saying, when an opportunity arises, I'd love to see the city try to snatch on to it.
Well, you go for a CDBG just to do sidewalks when that's not just what we were doing, because all the infrastructure was moved to the sidewalks from the middle of the street. So there's that issue too, so we can't just go for a sidewalk grant, because we need to move those, the rest of it.
And I'm not thinking just along Georgia Street, I'm thinking, you know, sidewalks everywhere, you know. But I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about.
One of the problems we have is we have a lot of empty homes in Louisiana. And we have a lot of rental property. And so we have people that live in those homes that aren't responsible for the
But the
sidewalk.
property owners
The
are still
property
are.
owner is.
Yeah.
So I guess as a council or a community, we just have to decide, are we gonna go by the ordinance and have them fix it? Or we just gonna let it slide or pick out, like he said, the worst ones and have them
It's a place
fix
to
it
start.
next year.
It's a place to start.
Right.
It's a place to start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess we need to
I have some,
sometime have a work study on sidewalks maybe and what we wanna do because of.
We don't need a
We
work
don't need a
study,
work
we
study
just
on
need
that.
to enforce our
Yeah,
ordinances.
we just have Kent walk from the riverfront to the hospital and back once a week on both sides. You'll find all this stuff.
Yeah, there's so many other spots we have sidewalks.
I'll take the commission, I could probably use it.
I have some concern that we're putting pile after pile after pile after pile on our building, person here. And some time ago, we hired a person that was dog catcher and was to work with him. Is he working with you?
Is Wiley still helping you?
They took that out.
Okay, okay, so I was under the assumption that he was to work half-time with Mr. Adams, and certainly he could walk sidewalks, whatever. Mr. Adams,
When we moved, when we put Wiley squarely under the police, because that was in effect what was really happening.
yes,
Whether supposed to, not supposed to, that was the way it was working. The conversation that he had with Rich at the time was that as Kent needs assistance from officers who are out and about already, that he would provide that assistance to notice or report tall grass, et cetera, so that the fact that we have officers circulating, we could leverage to kind of have greater coverage for our building inspector. So I still anticipate that cooperation from our police department, but it's not exactly the same form that it was before.
How has that worked out?
Not particularly effectively so far, but it doesn't mean it can't.
Don't they have
It's not
people?
my committee.
Oh,
It's Don's gone.
darn. Don't they have, kids and stuff that are doing community service? Would they be able to do some of those extra things? Like, they were talking about walking, finding the sidewalks, couldn't use. I don't know.
It's a liability.
Oh, okay.
but if they just tell Mr. Adams that there's bad sidewalk in so-and-so's, that's certainly not liability.
They can do that. Anyone can do that.
As long as I'm tripping falls, it was.
Yep.
Anyone can do that.
Dave could put in the paper that, please report if there's a bad sidewalk.
Mr. Meyer?
How about a list from the mail carriers?
That's a good idea.
You get a list from the mail carrier?
They walk them every day.
That's an idea. That's a good idea. If I give you a list of ones that don't show their snows yet.
Mhm.
Yeah, 'cause every winter they always say, it's nice that you clear the block out.
I'll look into that. Other than that, I just suggest that we report it to the building inspector. We need to spend a lot of time on this.
Another question?
One more thing. Would they be able to add, like, for him, when he does the inspections or the occupancy permits, would they be able to add language in there to make it part of the inspection process?
To look at the
To look at the
sidewalk.
sidewalk too?
That's a great idea.
It's not a building.
Yeah.
Why not?
It's not a building. So
It's the yard.
I'm not sure that that's within jurisdiction of buildings.
We
Well, it's
did.
not that it would be a pass or fail the inspection thing, but just simply that they would assess
Yeah, you can
the
certainly
safety
assess
of
it.
the sidewalk.
Isn't, whenever property transacts in the city, they have to have a code compliance certificate from our building inspector. I mean, I would assume the code compliance, part of the code is your sidewalks, not necessarily the building code, but it is a code compliance deal.
I'm not so sure about that.
Can you make it a code compliant?
I mean, you got it in city ordinance, is what I'm saying.
What were you gonna say?
A lot, I don't know an exact number, I would say a large portion of town, not a large, not the majority, don't even have sidewalks.
Right.
There's not a sidewalk there.
Building inspector.
Okay.
What I was told when I was forced to do my sidewalk
Actually, I don't think your homeowner's.
was if you have a sidewalk, you have to maintain it. You don't have to,
I mean, you can turn.
There's nothing you can do. Yeah,
that's pretty much logic there.
yeah,
As a
it's
problem.
common sense.
But
Yeah.
there's no,
So,
Is there a city ordinance that says you have to have a sidewalk?
well, that's just what I was
No.
So
saying.
you might end up with a lot of citizens just ripping their sidewalk straight out and not putting it back.
I don't think there is.
Put some grass in there.
You might end up with a lot of dirt spots people have to walk through instead of sidewalks.
No.
You get too strict.
People on the streets walking
I
around.
think there is something in there, but not decided.
I don't know. I'm not positive. You check into it. Anybody else have anything on sidewalks?
I just redid mine.
Adjourn the meeting.
Brothers and gals, and call the meeting to order. Make a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting. All in favor? A lot of these are just updates, and I have here is, is there any update, Bob, as far as on the Hodges building, as far as the roof? Have you looked at,
Yeah, we got $42,000.
is that what they're looking for, the roof?
Mm-hmm. 42,000.
And how much to tear it down?
We have.
That's more than the building. Probably more than the building.
Yeah, but we don't need to lose another building.
Update on the 314, 316 Georgia.
I had Michael Pearl and from Pecking Beach and Stone engineering firm come out and look at Mr. Dempsey's building. I'm awaiting his report. I hope to have that for you by council meeting next week.
Everyone received a copy of what Mr. Green provided as far as utilizing $3,000 for improving Lincoln Park. Bob's here, and if you want to give a little bit of a breakdown.
Right now, as I said in the report, the roof needed to be fixed before we can do the electrical park inside the park portion inside the basketball court. The roof has been done, so now we're gonna go ahead and proceed on getting all the equipment and supplies to do the electrical part, and me and Kent are gonna be doing that on our own voluntarily on the 16th of August. The pavilion, I have already started on the pavilion. We're about 50% done with it. I'm waiting for the bathroom door to come in. Look for that to be here any day. I'm hoping that everything by the time me and Kent get done at the end of the day on the 16th, the park will be complete.
Good job.
For anyone who didn't connect the dots, that's the $3,000 from a matching grant that Rotary Trumbull and the city put together to work on that part. And thank you very much.
I've been having a lot of complaints just throughout town, tires. out in the open. I've already emailed Bob on this, various locations. If anyone knows of any locations where people got stockpiles of tires out in the open, maybe we need to compile a list and give that to Bob or the building inspector. Up on Douglas Street, I want to ask the committee to see if we pursue or see what's the best course of action of declaring that property a nuisance. I got quite a few complaints about the property. They can't find the owners. Haven't seen the owners. It's been ongoing. And if any of y'all have driven up there and looked at it, it's terrible. And the neighbors around there, good as gold to put up with that as long as they can. So I would make a motion that we bring forward to full council declaring that property a public nuisance.
A second.
All in favor? That's all I have. I see Reverend Coleman back. Reverend, I didn't bring forth your letter before the whole council last month. I'm just, I just want to let you know that I didn't have that with me at the full council. So if just keep that in mind if you want to still pursue that. Your letter.
What are we talking about?
You're talking about your inspection fees.
Oh, okay.
What happens to a piece of property when it becomes declared a nuisance?
Basically, we wind up owning it after a period of time. We go through condemnation.
What do we do with the first property?
Yes.
The birth property was declared a nuisance. The municipal court judge ordered it cleaned up. I sent out for bids. The lowest bid cleaned it up. Then the city paid for it, and they put a lien on the property and waiting for payment in return.
Waiting for the lotto for.
The bill for cleaning up the birth property was $10,000.
Okay, I drove by it today because I heard that it's really, pardon me, a crappy building area now. There are things like pallets in the yard. It's worse than it is before. Can we just simply condemn the property, say it's not safe for?
You can condemn it, but if you don't do anything to it, what do you accomplish?
Are you going back to Ben's property?
Yes.
I heard that was filling up again.
It's back to almost where it was before we spent the $10,000 to have it fixed.
So you don't lien on the property, but you still can use the property.
The property does not have electricity, I understand, it does not have sewage and water.
You're telling it unless it's sold, you can't really do it.
Right.
And if and when it's sold, if the owner has nothing to gain, it's all paid over to the city. Like Bob said, you end up owning the problem anyway.
And no matter who owns the problem, it's still a problem. You have a condemned property that the city takes ownership of in a way to remove the bad house or whatever it's on it, the city takes ownership of the property and actually puts it up for sale. And it's probably
Force
forced sale or something like that.
Yeah, it just, either way, it puts the city in a no-win situation.
But what it does is it degrades the value of the property.
Oh, I agree
In
with
that
that
section
wholeheartedly.
of town. Now, I know there's not a lot of the value of property in that section of town, but
I think the difference, if we're comparing the two properties, I know that's not necessarily the case. We can't find owners on Douglas. I mean, it's kind of no-brainer. But the Creedus, and correct me if I'm wrong, the Benhurst property, there's some negotiating going on to where he's able to pull some of his stuff, personal items, off the property and put it elsewhere. but all of a sudden it reappears on his property. If it's declared a public nuisance and we're gonna go through the expense of it, whatever's on that property, there shouldn't really be a negotiation. It should be, get it out of here. You got till this date, get whatever you want off of here, and at this date.
Unfortunately, it wasn't a negotiation. The reality is that the municipal court takes time to get to that point. And so, you know, there is 30 days that you have to go, okay, this is coming, I'm moving my stuff.
Right.
There's not much way around the time that the court has to act. But it seems like what the real problem is that because the problem isn't the property, the problem is the owner of the property and their behavior with the property. That unless you deal with the ownership of the property, you're not going to have a sustainable solution. So, you know, you almost have to wind up not just with a lien that makes you virtually the owner, you have to literally own it so they can't put stuff back there, right? I mean, that's what happens in large communities where they have blighted areas. They go in, they bulldoze these buildings, the lots are owned by the city, they're vacant lots. Minimal maintenance. But the demo of the, you know, of those kinds of things cost money. It's resources. But I think, you know, what's going to happen to this Douglas property, you know, what will happen if we go through the process of declaring it a nuisance, which I'm all for. You know, I'm very much for it. But then what? What keeps it from happening again?
So in that case, we can't even find the owner. I mean,
If it's under deserved taxes on the property.
I would like, you know, to bring you up to date on both properties.
That'd be great.
Mr. Burse's property is starting to clutter up again. I can show you pictures. It's not nearly as bad as it was before. Two pieces of property do not have electric. They have they have storage buildings on one. The other one is just bare. The only violation he's got on one piece of property is tall grass right now. There's nothing on the property. The other two, I have sent him letters, and according to the property maintenance code, he has a maximum of X amount of days. He's been given those days. He has to have it cleaned up, and I have told him personally that if they're not cleaned up, I'm going to ask the judge to put him in jail. He gets a ticket for every day that it happens. The other property on Douglas Street, I've sent tickets out, sent them out, certified mail. They came back. They cannot find anybody. I was going to ask the judge last month to issue warrants for their arrest. We canceled court last month due to a death of a city official. And so this Thursday, I'm going to ask the judge to issue warrants for their arrest to try to hunt them down. Again, we cannot find them. I don't know what the answer is. I've talked to a few people and asked them if they would go in, if the judge will approve it, if they'll go in and clean it up for what's on it. I can't really get any takers right now.
Don't know the legality of doing that.
It's probably not. They're absolutely right. We can't find them. I don't know what the answer is. I agree, though, that it's not fair to all the, it's not fair to the people right around there to have to put up with that, but it's not fair for somebody 20 blocks away to have to pay for something to be cleaned up in another neighborhood.
Do we have some sort of recourse through public health to condemn the property as unlivable? I assume he lives in it.
No, sir, he does not.
He does not?
He lives with his sister. He has a mailing address there, but when I go there or when I try to contact him, I have to go to his sister's house to contact him.
Well, it's a hazard no matter what, comments and everything else.
Yes, I hear complaints about snakes, and rats, mice, and you name it from the neighbors. The next door lady contacted me because he was stealing her water.
you guys have a motion out there?
We already voted, we're bringing for full council.
Is that all you want?
Yeah, that's all.
I just wanted to bring up too, on the 401, the door on the second floor, you know, you probably know, it's open, so. That's all I think.
Okay, I also have another one, River City Towing. They got a special dispensation to open their business there, provided they did not provide what they're doing right now, which is making a real mess. So I guess we have the right to rescind their license to be there.
I don't know, Kent, you and I have talked about this. They have a special use permit.
On 8th Street? On 8th Street? Yes, sir.
And are they in violation of their special use permit?
There's about 10 stipulations on the violations. At times, they have violated, I think, 3 or 4 of them. They're not in constant violation of that. One of them is cars being in the way, you know. He gets a lot of traffic in there. I went and checked, he has an oil recovery system, and he has a company that comes and picks up all his oil, so.
What about the street part where they have potholes that are obviously from there?
So he's not in violation?
He's not in constant violation of any of them, and he has only been in violation for temporary amounts of time in 3 or 4 of the 10 or 12.
Are any of them chronic? Does he correct them when we bring them to his attention?
So far, he's corrected them. They've just been temporary. You know, he corrects it himself.
So I mean, I just want to make sure whatever the action is, it's
Yeah.
on solid grounds.
Yeah, but I think our agreement when we allowed him to open his business there, which is in the R1 area, that it would not be an eyesore in the community, in that area. And I think if you go by it today, you'll see that it's not a very nice looking place.
I think that would have, for us to take action, that would have to have been a part of requirements or somehow documented as part of the special use permit. I mean, the guy's got the special use permit, right? I don't know, is there a way to retract the special use permit?
It's almost impossible.
We agreed, when we gave it to him, we agreed that if he did not keep up the property in a nice way, that it could be rescinded.
I'm not doubting that. I'm wondering where the document is that says that.
It's apparently in the minutes of the,
So it should be in the minutes.
Isn't part of the problem now because we had a fire?
That was just this weekend.
I didn't know anything about a fire.
You talking about the John's place?
Yeah,
The
truck,
garage?
man exploded.
Van
Fire department was called, but no, it shouldn't. Yeah, that was just last weekend.
I'm sorry?
That was just last weekend.
Yeah, but did it not have fire?
You don't
inspect
buildings after a fire?
It was in the vehicle outside.
Wasn't
the
in,
building.
that wasn't inside.
I guess.
No, right.
Well, is that part of the problem? Is Mr. Lawson's talking about it, the fire, or is he talking about something different?
it's just junk all over the place.
I do not believe that's what Mr. Hoffman's talking about. I think Mr. Hoffman's talking about a chronic presence of the business that is not necessarily compatible with residential zoning. To have this business, he went through the process of the Board of Adjustments to obtain the special use permit to an exemption, so he could do this business. So the governance of whether or not he's in compliance should be captured in that permit, that process, right? That exemption, but I'll go back, I'll pull the exemption, and I will also pull the minutes, and we'll see if there's.
Please go.
Wouldn't that have been brought in planning and zoning involved in that?
It would have gone straight to Board of Adjustments.
It went to the Board of Adjustment?
Yeah.
And then we had to authorize the Board of Adjustments decision.
Yeah.
Anything else?
All right. Next one's water committee.
Call the water committee to order and make a motion to approve the minutes from the last committee meeting.
Second.
All those in favor? And so, we got a water production cost summary, talking about what our cost actually is for producing 1,000 gallons of water. Do you still feel comfortable with that?
That's the best
here?
number that we have right now. We're still negotiating, kind of talking about going back and forth with the engineer for rural water. This is based on those conversations. So he's been asking a lot of really good questions. Christina's been working very closely with me and with him on this to get these numbers. So I'm pretty confident there, but I think that the point at which I'm going to say I have full confidence in these numbers is when he's in agreement with me on that and he's still looking at it. We're going to go to his, I sent him back the spreadsheet. He's already given it to his board members, and Sonny and I will be at that board meeting to see what their feedback is and what their concerns are. And so hopefully, by the end of the month, we'll all be on the same page, and I think then we'll have a kind of validated number from an outside perspective that we can agree with, at least in administration. The process we're using, because we don't really have coding that, we can just say this is a cost of water. A lot of it is, a line item will have only part of it, so we're basically just assigning percentages. But in some cases, that's a little hard to do, and we're having to kind of just drill down a little bit. But I'm pretty confident in that number.
But it looks as though we are way low. We're way low on what we're charging.
Yeah, anyway we tried. I think
Or
we
way
started
low.
with the conversation thinking we were spending over $5 per 1,000 gallons, and I think we're now under $4 per 1,000 gallons is a more realistic number. So we're there's less
There's less
differential, but there's still a huge differential. And both Pike County, Rural Water, and Stark Brothers seem to understand that issue. I do have some news on the Stark Brothers side. And this was incidental. I was at the chamber luncheon today and sat next to Ken Lane. Of course, Jackie left Stark Brothers, so we met with a gal, Mary, and I can't remember her last name.
I don't
It was
remember
difficult
last
to
name.
pronounce.
Yeah.
And we met with her. She was going to take it back.
She pronounced her name, and I still didn't understand it, but.
And she did take it to their administrative meeting, but it got kind of dropped, and they weren't sure that they really understood what she was saying, and she left the employment of Starks as well. So they've had some issues there, which have caused a breakdown in that communication. So I called Sonny this afternoon after luncheon. They had invited us to their administrative meeting this Thursday if Sonny is available.
Yeah.
You are? Okay. So this Thursday at 9, we'll go and have those talks again with whoever's in those positions now, and hopefully it'll take hold. But two of their administrators were at the luncheon, and as we just casually discussed it, they understood and seemed to be willing to participate and work with us.
Does anybody have anything else on this? On the water production? The water rates outside of city limits. We had talked previously about the fact that our ordinance states that outside of city limits, customers are supposed to be charged 25% surcharge according to our ordinance. And we've been talking about what we wanted to do about that. Did you all have a chance to look at this? And what do you think? Christina did a lot of work.
Yes, she did. Thank you.
Some of
you're not dealing with the number of customers that you thought.
Yeah, I mean, when I ran the initial report, it said 86 customers, and then when I really got to looking at it, you know, I called the software engineers and I said something's wrong with it, and so I went, and they fixed the problem, and then we had another report problem, so I went one account at a time through all 53 accounts and did all the others, and I just don't think, there's only 53 accounts, and either way.
And of those 53 accounts, you don't have any significant users.
I don't think the intent was necessarily to try to generate funds. I think the only intent was looking for is the difference between a residential lives inside the city limits versus someone that lives outside the city limits being a difference. And just, if the committee can tell me
Well,
if it holds difference
it's
on it.
part of the infrastructure
Yeah.
that goes outside of that.
Yeah.
And it all boils down to, do we want to just remove the 25% surcharge altogether so that we're in compliance with our ordinance? Or do we want to amend the 25% to be something different?
We need to know, because right now we're operating not in compliance with this, based
Right.
on you guys making a decision, so we kind of need to know what you want to do.
Was the water committee make the decision because
Well, we'll have to take it to the full council.
Ideally, that's what I'd like to see, would be a recommendation from the water committee on this issue.
Christine, is there any difference between the flat rate or percentages that makes it the job easier to calculate for you?
Flat rate's easier.
Flat
That's
rate's
what I was
easier.
gonna say, I was just gonna recommend the flat rate.
I second that.
What did you say?
I said I second that.
No.
Wasn't a motion yet, but no.
All those in favor?
Of what?
Yikes.
you have to
Just
have
raise
something there to be in favor of.
Raise the minimum, flat rate of $15. I mean,
Second.
All those in favor?
And when would you like to implement that, on the next billing cycle?
yeah.
Council has to approve
Yeah,
it.
we'll have to go to council.
Council approval.
But I mean, if it does go ahead and go through, do you want that on the next billing cycle?
Yes.
You gotta give them any notice,
That's what I'm asking.
maybe push it off a little,
Well, we have to get the ordinance.
Push
So it would be,
Okay, so
September.
your motion is
September.
to raise the minimum, or is it to amend the ordinance?
and then the ordinance, we have to amend the ordinance no matter what. We have to take the 25%
it'll be to amend the ordinance to, instead of a 25%, to reflect a $15 flat rate.
Flat rate.
And the request would be that we would start following that directive in September.
September will be the next bill.
And for
For September billing. Does that
Can you
work?
pull it off?
Well,
No.
I mean, we can do it whenever, I mean, it's super easy to change, it's just, you know, we need to wait till the ordinance gets done and passed before we go.
I think we should,
I think, yeah.
because then we're following the ordinance.
Right, so.
And if we're keeping ourselves.
for clarification, what's the minimum flat rate right now?
7.2.
So it's going from $7.25 to $15.
Okay.
Be October before you
Yeah,
get
Yeah.
so,
the
yeah.
ordinance, read and adopted and
Okay, well, we'll do it as
changed.
soon as the
so-
ordinance is coming to me.
Does anyone have anything else for the water committee? Okay, adjourned.
Grant committee, I called grant committee to order and, make a motion to approve the minutes from last month's.
Second.
Bob, did you have any?
Good vote.
Vote,
All in
all in favor? I knew everybody would say yeah. Bob?
Just would mention that, as a result of that TEEP grant and the information that we provided to the school district, you will see that they have redone the entryway to the high school and the middle school, as recommended by the engineering report.
And they're looking at doing some other improvements based on that information as well. So,
I was asked to look, or we talked, I don't remember, everything from last month was such a mess because of what happened with Rich, so, but I believe it was the month before, was asked about the demo grant, which Kent kind of touched on, and said that we couldn't do it right away, since we got one last month.
Right.
Well, I talked to Robin, and she pretty much reiterated what Kent said, although we could apply for one, she said it would be a good time to wait 4 or 5 years. Okay, because they're gonna come back and say, we did all this work for you, what was it, $80,000 or something like that? And why aren't you enforcing your ordinances to keep everything else up? In 4 or 5 years, they're gonna forget that they gave us the 80,000. So we can apply for it again, but they're, yes.
What I kinda had planned was, there is a budget in there's a line item in my budget for demo buildings. If we get to the point where the city can budget some money into that, my plan was, over the next 2 or 3 years, a demo for a house runs $5,000 to $10,000. If what they told me was, if we take the initiative and we take down a few houses ourselves, then we apply again, and they'll say, you all are doing the best you can with what you got.
Yeah.
Here's a check, and we'll knock out a bunch of them.
Yeah. So that's where we are on that one. I also have Robin looking into possible grants to help with the police and fire department. Anything she can find. So those are the 2 things I got from Robin. So does anybody have anything else? Yes, sir.
If you guys copy this of what I have, and that'll be a part, and I've already given Bob. It seems like we have lost a lot of trees in our parks due to the recent droughts and whatnot. And what I would like to propose is that I'd like to get a grant through the Missouri Department of Conservation or the DNR for trees to be planted in the outfield along the fence, and then put barbecue grills and tables back there as well. I've had quite a few citizens approach me saying, hey, are you going to replenish the trees that we had to cut down due to disease from our drought? And I got to looking, and there's a lot of bare area out there, and there's no shade. You can sit out there and watch a game. There's just no shade. You're just getting burned up. So I talked to the Forestry, Missouri Department of Conservation Forestry Division when they were here, and told them my ideas on this situation. He said, that's a great idea. But keep in mind, it's better, he told me it's better to apply for several small grants in a period of time than to get one grant to cover everything, because they don't want to put all their eggs in one basket. So this is what I propose, is to go ahead and take care of Wallace Park this year and spread it out within 5 years to take care of the tree replenishment throughout all the other parks.
In 1 year?
Within 5 years.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, that way we can do a park at a time. Okay, and
So my understanding is that you've identified a grant that's out there, or a place you can
yes,
go to apply.
yes. The Missouri Department of Conservation Forestry Department has told me these funds are available right now, and I'd like to get going on this so that we can get this planning process done during the fall, so that those roots can take hold. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
What do you need from us right now?
You know, I've been in this position for about a little over a year. I've never applied for a grant, so I'm asking for your help. You know, if you.
It's a tree grant, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Through the
it's a
Forestry
pretty simple.
Department.
Is your point of contact Randy Holtz?
Yes, it was.
My cousin.
Hey, I'm going to use my resources. I'm all about using my resources. Okay.
Bob, do we want to make a motion on that, or just move forward? And then she's like, you got that grant for down the riverfront? Is that something that's still available? We could get some for out there?
No.
Okay, that's a one-time thing.
No, it comes on a yearly thing.
Well, I didn't
And
even
it's
write this
cash.
in it, but I mean, you know,
I mean, there'll be a 2015 application.
okay, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah,
Okay.
that would be a possibility,
Okay.
yes.
So there you go, we might be able to do that, get a grant for that too.
Great, great, thank you.
All right, anybody else? Adjourn the meeting.
Thanks, Kathy. Chuck, you're up.
Okay, I call the ordinance committee to order and recommend that we accept the minutes as written. Do I have a second? Any in favor? Okay, we have one ordinance that must be passed, otherwise nobody. And that is, I will read the beginning of it here and recommend that we take it for council. An ordinance enacted pursuant to the Missouri Revised Statutes, section 67.110, fixing the annual rate of levy for the real estate and personal property taxes within the corporate limits of the City of Louisiana, Missouri. I recommend that we take it to full council.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Okay. Good. It has been brought to my attention that we violated some ordinances, and we would like to get them straightened out so that in the future we won't be doing it again. And so, look here. They deal with the police chief. And I've asked that Mr. Rapp work these so that they fit within our parameters of what we're doing. Okay. Section 115.250, duties. It indicates that the administrative officer, the city administrator shall be the chief administrative assistant to the mayor, and as such shall be administrative officer of the city government, except as otherwise specified by ordinance or by the law of the state of Missouri. The city administrator shall coordinate and generally supervise the operation of all departments of the city of Louisiana, with the exception of the police department. And that needs to be changed because obviously we're doing it. Okay? And the second one.
Let me ask a question on that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a duty of the city administrator to supervise the police department. But that doesn't necessarily mean that through another title, he couldn't have that.
Yes,
It doesn't prohibit that function.
Right.
It limits the duties of the particular, of the city administrator.
Yeah, by referring to him as executive, does that change?
I believe so. I mean,
Okay,
this is a separate
That's what I'd like to research.
appointment with a separate set of duties, and I don't see that prohibits.
Correct.
It simply limits the scope of that particular appointment. So giving him another appointment that
As a
has
different
it,
title.
I think is not in conflict.
Okay.
You know,
I would like you to look at it because it's been brought to my attention. And the second one is the chain of command in 200.110. And it says, section A, it says the chief of police shall, in the discharge of his or her duties, be subject to the orders of the mayor and the city administrator only. It goes on. And that falls, I think, in the same thing we've been talking about here. So we just need to maybe create a position for the executive chief of police. I don't know.
I don't know what you necessary to embody that.
Well, couldn't you simply just take out, amend it and take out and city administrator only and put and the mayor only?
Good, but the reason why I don't think you have to, it's redundant now. It's redundant.
Yeah.
But there may come a time in the future when the executive police chief and the city administrator are not one and the same person. then it would make perfect
and
sense.
it would be fine. So it's not in, it's in conflict now, it's just redundant.
Yeah,
Cause you can't supervise yourself.
well,
He's gonna be
he
supervised.
can, if Bob has a problem as executive police chief, he can take it up with himself, and then if it still is not resolved, then he can ask the city administrator to take it up with the mayor.
Please let us know if you get an answer.
Yeah.
I have a question of Mr. Rapp, and, because I don't know the state statutes on this, but something's gnawing at me thinking that I've read somewhere that there is a potential conflict of having two appointed positions held by one person. I can recite the statute for you, but maybe you already have it, and clarify that, please.
No, not a conflict of interest. There is RSMO 77.044 says he has to be 21, he has to devote his full-time duties to the performance of the duties of his office. So the question is, what is full-time duties? I mean, basically, if he does both jobs and he gets them both done, there's no issue.
What did you just recite? What is that pertaining to?
City administrators, it revised statutes of Missouri 77.044 recites the qualifications to be a city administrator. He has to be 21 years old. It, quote, devote his full time to the performance of the duties of his office. The governing body may also require that the city administrator meet other personal qualifications. So that's it. But not a conflict of interest. Conflict of interest is more where when you try to serve two masters and one master has a completely different legal agenda. The city has a uniform legal agenda, which is to be third-class city and protect the public safety and welfare of its citizens.
I just wanted to be legal, that's all.
Yeah, if there's something we need to correct, I want to correct it. Absolutely.
Well, you read the definition. What's your opinion on it?
Well, I know in state government, a lot of times there will be positions where they say it's a full-time position, but that doesn't mean you can't do
Assume
other
other
things.
duties.
Right, you just for, so the real test is he getting the job done? And I'm assuming that council wouldn't have even considered this appointment if they didn't think that this was doable, particularly since it was done in the past.
It was evidence for a year.
Exactly, so saying he's a full-time city administrator doesn't mean he can't do something else, too. It doesn't specifically say that. So to come to that conclusion would be reading something into the statute that's not really there.
And I wasn't referring to that. What I thought I read something that had language to the effect of one person holding two appointed positions, more definitively. But like I said, my memory lapsed me.
Well, if you come across it, please make us aware and we'll address it
I was looking,
as necessary.
I do kind of vaguely recall language like that, but it came up in some other context, not this. So when I looked at this, that's what I found that was the most specific thing.
I have nothing else.
One, we have a couple guests here that are interested in starting a pet store that would primarily focus on reptiles, correct?
Fish.
And it will have small reptiles.
Small reptiles.
I just wanted to be sure that we're all on the same page, that are you under the assumption that there is a conflict for us to have pets that are fish, i.e. not dogs and cats, in Louisiana? Does our been
ordinance
argued
that
in
addresses
council.
it,
Yes, there is.
but it's not.
It says exotic animals in the.
Hold up.
Oh,
It's,
don't remember
it's,
that.
sorry, excuse me, it says that they have to have, crocodilian reptiles. Snakes are not crocodilians, they are snakes.
Okay, but you're reading.
Nothing, I got it off of your all's internet site, it's,
We have.
What it would require,
section
and I gave this
210.
information.
240, 211, 208.
Here's really what I want to get to in this committee tonight. I want to support this new business and any other business that would be like this going into Louisiana. I want to support a choice of pets that are safe in our community, in our town. If there is any objection to that by our ordinance, according to our ordinance, if any of you see a problem with our ordinance in doing that, I'd like to discuss it, and I'd like to get on the same page and make corrections as necessary, but it's my intention to proceed that this is acceptable. If it's not, I need to hear that from you, that that's not the policy we want to embrace as a city, and let's figure out what is the policy and where those lines are. As long as they're not dangerous, venomous, I think is one of the things cited. There's some other things cited that are pretty obvious, but your typical, less than 6 foot snake, I think is the way it's described.
We want to follow city ordinance.
Right, and I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. What I don't want is to approve a store and then read in the paper how I violated an ordinance.
Basically, what I looked at when I was asked by the mayor to provide me information is that this would require a special use exception, and it would require a commercial kennel license.
Where's it gonna go?
A wild animal and or exotic animal.
Why would we have to have a
That's the way it states.
Or foreign wildlife, poisonous reptiles, venomous snakes, constrictor reptiles 6 feet or more in length, crocodilian reptiles 2 feet or more in length. An animal trained for fighting shall be any animal or any type or kind that has been trained for or used for the purpose of fighting. So it says absolutely nothing about a non-venomous snake or a constrictor type snake that's less than 6 foot.
Right.
So,
Well, it says, I'm looking at 210.240.
that's what I just read from.
And it said, using fighting already deadly, or, so any of the following: deadly, dangerous, poisonous, endangered, or protected animal or fowl. Last time I talked to a conservation agent, I think he told me that all snakes are protected.
They are.
Okay, so that is protected.
Excuse me. Would that be considered a state snake or an exotic snake?
If a snake, all snakes are endangered in the state of Missouri.
Right, you can't
According
kill.
to conservation agents. And then this ordinance makes it unlawful to keep, or possess, or own.
I think what they're saying is a snake that's not native to this area.
Yeah, your
Exactly.
constrictor snakes are not even from
We're not
here.
even allowed to, by law, we are not allowed to bring a native animal into the store. It's against the law for us to sell a native animal.
Greg, where's your store gonna be?
We're trying to get, right beside Doug Dempsey's building, the bank owns that empty store.
Oh, okay.
We were going for Lynn's business right there, the green.
Where the chiropractor used to be?
Yes, we're
Okay.
going for that, but in business sense, it's better for us to start in the other store.
On Georgia Street.
And then look for a place to buy if the city, we're looking from business, Pittsfield is driving us nuts to get started. Bowling Green is calling, wanting to know when we're gonna get started. The pet store closed down in Pittsfield, that lady is the one that is calling us. People are driving her nuts in Pittsfield wanting stuff. Well, I mean, they're showing us the revenue is there.
I was just wondering where you were thinking about.
We're looking right there in the middle of the business district.
Okay, are you gonna do feeder rats and stuff?
We have to,
Yeah.
we have to.
You can't grow chickens.
That's a whole nother.
You look at our ordinance, what parts of our ordinance do you have concerns about?
He just brought up a kennel license. The way I read the ordinance, I may have read it wrong, I understood that's if you have cats or dogs.
Yep.
We're not.
Definition in Article 210.010, pet dealer, any person, firm, partnership, corporation, or other association which engages in the sale of any animals to the consuming public for any purpose at any time.
Yep, you got it.
And then
That
under,
requires a commercial kennel.
under 210, it says any person which harbors more than 5 animals over the age of 4 months on one property, including pet shops, shall be deemed as operating a commercial kennel, even though you're not in the dog
Exactly,
business.
exactly.
Yeah.
So,
And that's all I went from.
You just
so
have
as
to
you
watch.
said, can we get a special provision on that? Or,
What do you have to have a special use exception for
We
that?
had a
You don't
pet
need a
store
special
there
It
use.
before.
says, any person desiring
It's not
to
a
operate a
social use.
commercial kennel within the city
Not that long ago.
shall first apply for and must be granted a special use exception for the purpose of operating a commercial kennel.
Okay, so that's the process by which you get the commercial kennel
It's
license.
been years since I've been here.
What are we looking at on
It's just a
cost
process.
for doing that?
okay.
And then it goes on to state that it requires a quarterly inspection by the humane officer with an inspection fee of $25 each inspection.
And I don't think there's a cost associated with the Board of Adjustment to get the special use, but there is.
$100.
Yeah.
thing.
The owner of such commercial kennel as designated by the Board of Adjustment bylaws shall remit a fee of $100 to the city clerk for the special use.
You'll see that as a berm.
Isn't it just one-time fee for that?
You guys gonna sell?
And I'll be happy to make copies of this for you.
I have part of that due.
Yeah, the one that's,
Yes, we are, sir.
is 210.210,
Okay.
and that's the one about the commercial kennels.
Right, I read that whole section on that.
And
He
then
is right.
section 210.010 is the definition section, and it talks about pet dealing.
Right. I did read that.
Good question. What if your animal control officer is scared of what we have in the store and you can't get him through the door? Who will be filling in for him? And please don't tell me Kent Adams, because you all have this man run ragged already. So can you come in and do it?
I'd be happy to do it.
I'm just saying that you all have
We'll
him
get
run
that what
ragged,
if
so
covered.
would you be okay with
The
coming
main
in?
goal for this conversation was for me to establish that we're on the same page,
Yeah.
that this is an allowable business per our ordinance. That
Can we identify the ordinance states that you have to have a kennel license if you have how many pets?
More than 5 animals over the age of 4 months.
Okay, so I have a 10-gallon aquarium in my house with 15 tropical fish, so I gotta have a kennel license?
Well, in this case, he's falling under pet dealer because it's
Right.
for safety.
But what I'm saying
You're
is
do you need a
that.
non-commercial
Yeah.
kennel license? Yeah, that's been our.
Yeah.
That's been
That's-
argued.
That's a problem, that's a problem.
Your bird, your
Because
rabbit,
if these guys gonna set up a pet shop in town, they're gonna sell aquariums and fish and whatnot, and people are like, well, I gotta have a kennel license to actually have more than 5 fish.
Well, it's just.
I suggest the legislature do something.
If you go,
I agree.
if you go further in that
How do
section,
you fix that? Jeff, just pay $100.
Jeff, if you go further in that section, according to section C, all animals within such a pet, within a kennel or pet shop, which are over the age of 4 months, we're gonna have to give fish rabies inoculation.
Yeah.
That's what it says.
Does anybody need to adjust that? Yeah, that needs to be fixed.
Yeah, we.
Jeff, I think you should take that on.
They make it in a suppository now.
Our
No,
ordinance
no.
also says you can't bury it.
Hey, if you actually read up on your
Bury
fish, there's some
Yeah.
really stuff, special
So,
stuff.
You gotta flush my fish down the toilet.
no, you sure you can, just don't bury it.
Right now, no, and I-
That's burial at sea.
Yeah, that's against the law.
Yeah,
We don't like that at all.
you're polluting the stormwater.
Yeah.
My question has been answered, Chuck.
Chuck, you can,
Yeah,
you can
that's-
adjourn the meeting.
We just come to see if we get city council's approval, that we would, that,
Yeah, I don't
you know,
think
we're
so.
not gonna have to fight city council to start this.
That's why I brought it up, and I haven't heard objection to this process.
Rock on.
Yeah.
And
All right,
by the
we're-
way,
we're
we
done.
are working with the University Extension, and their researcher, Charles Howland, researched it too and said he thought this was a good area for it.
Good. I like Charles. That's good.
You're adjourned, Chuck. You're adjourned.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.